Shilo Sanders is not a name that floats quietly through the NFL news cycle. When he speaks, the football world listens, and right now, what he has said has sent shockwaves from Cleveland all the way to every front office in the league. His recent comments, which made their rounds rapidly across social media and major sports outlets, have ignited a conversation that is no longer theoretical. The possibility of Shilo Sanders suiting up alongside his brother Shedeur Sanders on the Cleveland Browns roster has moved from idle speculation into a genuinely developing story, and the implications of that development are enormous. To understand the full weight of this moment, you have to start with who Shilo Sanders actually is, because if you have not been following his journey closely, you are about to realize just how much you have been missing. Shilo Sanders is a defensive back who built his reputation through a college career that took him from South Carolina to Jackson State, where he played alongside his brother Shedeur under the coaching of their father, Deion "Primetime" Sanders. At Jackson State, Shilo was not simply benefiting from his family name, he was actively constructing his own identity as a physically imposing, instinct-driven defender capable of making plays at the professional level. Scouts who evaluated him consistently highlighted three attributes: his ball-hawking instincts in coverage, his ability to diagnose a quarterback's intentions before the snap, and his willingness to engage in run support, something that separates the great defensive backs from the average ones in the NFL. These are not developmental traits. These are professional-level skills that teams actively build game plans around. What further distinguishes Shilo is the combination of his athletic pedigree and the football education he received growing up. When your father is Deion Sanders, widely regarded as the greatest cornerback in the history of professional football, your understanding of the position is not something you acquire in a film room. It is something you absorb from the time you are old enough to watch game tape. Shilo Sanders has had that education his entire life, and it shows in the way he processes information on the field. His football IQ is not a product of coaching alone, it is the result of a lifetime spent inside one of the most elite football minds the sport has ever produced. Beyond the athletic profile, Shilo Sanders arrives with something most NFL prospects do not carry through the door on day one: a fully developed personal brand. He has grown up in the public eye, built a social media following, and carries name recognition that gives him immediate cultural relevance in any market he enters. This is not your average free agent candidate. Shilo Sanders walking into an NFL city is a moment. Shilo Sanders walking into Cleveland alongside his brother would be an entirely different category of event. Now let's get to the comments that have the entire football world on fire. In a recent conversation that spread rapidly through social media platforms and sports news outlets, Shilo Sanders made remarks that unmistakably pointed toward a desire to join his brother Shedeur in Cleveland. This was not a polished public relations statement crafted by an agent. This was Shilo Sanders speaking candidly, with genuine enthusiasm, about the prospect of reuniting with his brother on an NFL roster. He spoke openly about the bond between himself and Shedeur, about the significance of playing together again, and about the energy surrounding what Cleveland could become with both Sanders brothers on the field. He even referenced showing up to Browns games, language that suggests he was already envisioning himself as part of that city's football story. In professional sports, context matters. Players at this level understand that every public statement carries weight. When Shilo Sanders chose to speak about Cleveland with that level of enthusiasm and specificity, he was not speaking carelessly. He was communicating a preference, and the NFL heard it clearly. Every team that had been positioning itself to sign Shilo Sanders received a message in those remarks, whether they wanted to acknowledge it or not. The concept of two brothers at this caliber sharing an NFL roster is genuinely rare. Two players with elite athletic profiles, two personal brands with massive reach, and a sibling relationship that goes back to youth football in the household of one of the game's legends. That combination has almost no modern equivalent in the sport. The ingredients for something historic are visibly present, and Shilo Sanders made sure the world knew he is aware of that. To fully grasp why this potential reunion matters so deeply, you have to understand what Shedeur Sanders has already built since arriving in the NFL, because the platform his brother would be stepping into is extraordinary. Shedeur Sanders entered the professional game as one of the most hyped and scrutinized quarterback prospects in recent memory. After his career at Jackson State, where he broke records and demonstrated the ability to operate a high-level offense with poise and precision, Shedeur made the transition to the pros carrying enormous expectations. His on-field performance has justified every bit of that attention. His arm talent, his pocket awareness, and the football instincts shaped by years of mentorship from Deion Sanders have been on full display, and the league has taken notice. But the story of Shedeur Sanders extends far beyond what happens between the white lines on game day. He has constructed one of the most impressive endorsement portfolios ever assembled by a player at his stage of professional development. His landmark deal with Nike, one of the largest partnerships of its kind for a player with his level of NFL experience, has established him not only as a football talent but as a global brand. The deal reportedly contained specific clauses tied to his active playing status, meaning the value of the partnership increases substantially the moment he takes the field for official pre-season action. The business empire Shedeur has built around his name goes well beyond a single apparel partnership. He has launched his own apparel line, developed a signature food brand, secured a collaboration with EA Sports for exclusive gaming content, and entered a notable partnership with Tom Brady's premium wellness company. These are not surface-level celebrity endorsements, these are equity-based agreements that give Shedeur an ownership stake in his own brand's financial growth. Perhaps the most jaw-dropping detail in his entire portfolio is this: Shedeur Sanders reportedly secured a deal that grants him close to half of the revenue generated from his jersey sales, a figure that is virtually unheard of at his career stage and one that signals the people around him understand they are working with a long-term, generational brand asset. Now picture Shilo Sanders stepping into that environment. Two brothers. Two brands. Two players who understand the intersection of sports and culture at a level that most athletes take years to develop. The impact on the Cleveland Browns as a franchise would be immediate and multidimensional. Cleveland has had a complicated relationship with success. The franchise has experienced bursts of promise interrupted by roster turnover, inconsistency, and the ongoing search for an identity that endures. The arrival of Shedeur Sanders already shifted the atmosphere around the organization in measurable ways. Ticket demand increased, social media engagement surrounding the Browns reached new highs, and national media coverage of the franchise changed in tone and volume. The Browns were no longer a team discussed primarily in the context of their historical struggles. They became a team discussed in the context of possibility. Adding Shilo Sanders to that picture would compound every one of those effects. The Browns would hold two of the most marketable young players in the entire NFL under the same roof. The marketing potential is not just significant, it is historic. Joint endorsement opportunities, a combined social media footprint that would dwarf most player duos in the league, and a human interest narrative involving brothers raised by a Hall of Famer chasing greatness together in one city. That story would generate national media coverage that no marketing budget could manufacture artificially. On the field, Shilo's presence in the secondary would address a genuine positional need. His ability to read offensive schemes, contest throws at the catch point, and bring physical energy to the defensive backfield is the kind of contribution that strengthens a roster from the back end. With Shedeur running the offense and Shilo reinforcing the defense, the Browns would have identifiable star power on both sides of the ball, anchored by two players who have been communicating and competing together their entire lives. There is one more dimension to this story that goes beyond statistics and endorsements, and it may ultimately be the most significant layer of all. Deion Sanders has been direct and consistent in expressing his ambition to coach at the NFL level. His work at Jackson State demonstrated that he could build a program from minimal resources into a winning culture. His tenure at the University of Colorado, where he brought in top-tier recruiting classes, elevated the program's national profile dramatically, and proved his ability to develop quarterbacks, demonstrated that his coaching ability is substantive and scalable. These are not the credentials of a celebrity figure dabbling in coaching. These are the credentials of a serious football mind with a proven ability to build and lead. The conversation around the league has grown louder. If both Shilo and Shedeur land in Cleveland, the possibility of Deion Sanders following them to the NFL as a head coaching candidate becomes a legitimate talking point. The idea of prime-time coaching his sons at the highest level of professional football is the kind of storyline that transcends sports entirely. It becomes a cultural event, a generational story, and a television phenomenon simultaneously. The NFL has seen family relationships intersect with the game before, but never quite in this configuration. A father who is an all-time great, two sons who are elite professional players, all potentially united within one franchise. If Shilo Sanders' hints evolve into a signed contract, that question about Deion Sanders coming to Cleveland stops being a fantasy and starts being a serious front office consideration. The facts of this story are as clear as they are compelling. Shilo Sanders is a legitimate NFL-caliber defensive back with the bloodline, the football education, and the personal brand to make an immediate impact wherever he lands. Shedeur Sanders has already begun building something real in Cleveland, on the field and in the business world simultaneously. The Cleveland Browns, a franchise hungry for a new identity, sit at the center of a potential roster construction that the league has never quite seen before. And Deion Sanders looms in the background as a coaching figure whose presence would elevate the entire story to a different stratosphere. Shilo Sanders went off. He made his preferences known publicly and enthusiastically. The NFL is paying attention, Cleveland is paying attention, and every scout, analyst, and front office executive tracking this story knows that the next move matters enormously. If you want every update on this story the moment it breaks, every contract report, every press conference, every roster decision involving the Sanders family and the Cleveland Browns, make sure you are subscribed to this channel right now. Hit that like button if you believe Shilo and Shedeur Sanders together in Cleveland would be one of the most electrifying roster combinations in modern NFL history, and turn on your notifications so you are never a step behind on the story everyone in professional football is watching.